You are listening to Let's Talk Trio on podcasts. Keep up with the latest episodes by downloading the Podbean app or stream episodes via our social media accounts. Search for Let's Talk Trio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This podcast episode is brought to you by Longsdale Publishing. Is your program seeking ways to assess your students' college readiness? Does your program need a tool to document the effectiveness of your program? Longsdale Publishing is excited to offer the Strategic Learning Assessment, a 20-minute online assessment that provides recommendations and strategies to improve academic performance across 11 learning areas: communication, critical thinking, effective learning strategies, focus and concentration, growth mindset, persistence, seeking help, sense of belonging, stress management, test preparation, and time management. For as little as $3 per student, the Strategic Learning Assessment identifies strengths and areas for growth, along with tailored recommendations for each learning area. Want a complimentary sample account for yourself and 5 students? Contact Longsdale Publishing at 727-389-8026. Again, that number is 727-389-8026. Or visit our website for more information at www.longsdale.com. That website again is www.longsdale.com. Longsdale Publishing, your partner in student success. This episode is sponsored by Student Access. Student Access, the leader in Trio software. Student Access is an online database solution that allows Trio programs to track their students' information, connect with students by text messages, streamline the APR, and work from anywhere, all online, with automatic updates for changes from the Department of Education. Their technical support team includes former Trio staff and has over 50 years of combined experience working with Trio. Make it easier to focus on your priority, the students. For more information and to request a free demo, visit their website at www.studentaccess.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-801-1232. That website again is www.studentaccess.com or 1-800-801-1232. Be sure to share your favorite episodes on your social media by tapping that share button. This is a great way to support the podcast. Now here's your host, Juan Rivas.
Thank you, Amelia, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, listener, and welcome to the Season 7 finale of Let's Talk Trio. This is episode 39, and I am your host, Juan Rivas. What a year it has been for us here at Let's Talk Trio. We've had the privilege of featuring so many vital voices from the Trio community across the country. We even had the privilege to travel up to Idaho this year for the Idaho Association of Trio Professionals Conference. We are deeply honored and deeply grateful. Thank you all so much for your continued support. Thank you for making us a part of your day, whether you're heads down on the APR, catching your breath after a weekend of student events, or listening in on your morning commute. We appreciate every single download. Every single story shared has made this one of our most impactful seasons yet. So what's next for the team during this break? Well, more Trio. The microphones will stay on as we continue to recruit, outreach, and record brand new conversations. I can't reveal everything just yet, but the guest list is growing and season 8 is looking spectacular. So stay tuned, we will return in September of 2026. Stay subscribed, keep up the great work in the field, and I promise the wait will be worth it. Before we begin, some community announcements. Trio Nation, your voice is working. While Congress is moving to protect Trio funding for 2026, we must remain vigilant. Administrative shifts still threaten the stability of Trio grants. Take action now by calling your congressional representatives today. Thank them for their bipartisan support and urge them to ensure Trio programs remain fully funded and operational without delay. Let them know that Trio works. The link to find your congressional representative can be found on the episode description. For our season finale episode, we have James Alford, Trio alum and advisor for the College of Business with the University of Illinois, Chicago. In this episode, we learn about James's own educational journey, his path in Trio, and career experience. Coming up in just a bit, James Alford. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Villalpando, Rosario O'Reilly, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Jeff Naputi, Angelica Valdez, Felicia Rivera, Eric Lemaster, Jeff Calden, Rick Martinez, Don Blue Sky Hill, and Jaded Electronics. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, TrioJoblist.com, Nosotros Education Center, Longsdale Publishing, Student Access, and TheTrioStore.com, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio graduation stoles. Thank you all so much for your support of this podcast. You too can be a sponsor of the Let's Talk Trio podcast. Head on over to Patreon and search for Let's Talk Trio. Choose one of 4 patron levels. You can support this podcast for as little as $1 a month. If you own a business that serves the Trio community and want to sponsor the podcast, we have different sponsorship packages available. Contact us for details. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast business PayPal account. Our business handle is at Let's Talk Trio. Your support helps lift Trio voices. While we are on break, we are going to continue to record episodes. So if you would like to nominate a participant, staff, or alumni, or advocate to be on the podcast, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. Again, a great episode featuring James Alford, Trio alum, and advisor with the University of Illinois, Chicago. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Hi, Trio Nation. My guest on the Let's Talk Trio podcast currently serves as a cohort academic advisor in the College of Business and one of the co-chairs for the advisory committee for Black Student Access at the University of Illinois in Chicago. He is a native of Chicago, where he was born and raised. He is a proud Trio SSS alum, where he got his Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, a minor in Black Studies, and a Master of Science Education in Adult and Higher Education from Northern Illinois University. When he is not busy assisting students find success, my guest enjoys being a griller, a gamer, and a super uncle. Welcome to the podcast, James Alford.
Juan, thanks for having me. Thanks for creating this platform, to showcase the talents of Trio alum and Trio professionals. And I'm excited to be here. I think we played some LinkedIn messages, but yes. I'm glad to be here and be able to tell my story. Because I do think, people need to hear and see as many people as possible, because, we're inspiring others as we do this work.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us a bit of your time as well today, because so we're recording at 6:07 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You're in Central, is that right? So you're like an hour ahead?
Yep, it is 7. And today was one of them days I took a nap after work, and I was like, I'm just cruising. I'm like, I got to do that at 7. It snuck up on me, even though it was on the calendar. But
no, I hear you.
I'm ready for it.
Well, how are things? Speaking of Chicago, how are things at your corner of the world?
Work is winding down. We have commencement Friday. I work in the College of Business, so our commencement is Friday. So it's kind of slowing out. The weather is funky. It was raining around the end of work time, so that's probably why I took that nap, because I worked remote today. But things are going well. It's a nice slow before we ramp up for orientation over the summer. So getting excited to slow down, but just have that new pace of summer, if that makes sense. And I would say unexpected time off, but planned time off, because I'm at that point where I got to take so many days to not lose it, because I've been here so
yeah.
long.
For the university employees that know exactly what we're talking about, when you got to take that time off when you need it, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
don't give them any time.
Absolutely. James, can you tell me a little bit about Chicago? For those of us who've never been, I've been a few times. I love the city. It's a great city. What is something folks wouldn't know about Chicago, or some unique fact that you know?
That is a great question. So, um, Chicago is one of a kind. I think summertime Chicago is underrated. If you've never experienced it, I think you need to experience it. Like it is a dang great time. A random fact that I know that most people probably wouldn't know. What is Navy Pier? Used to be the University of Illinois. So, I work for UIC, University of Illinois Chicago. We're in that U of Illinois system, so it's Urbana-Champaign, Springfield. But in our conception, we were a school for veterans at Navy Pier. So that's a fun fact nobody probably would know.
Now our audience is filled in. I like this. Thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about your hobbies? You shared pre-podcast. We were doing a pre-show. You sharing about some of your interests. So griller, is there a favorite thing that you love to grill? You're a gamer. Is there a specific game that you're really good at? And the last one, I'll leave alone because I'm going to ask you about it as the last.
No, for sure. So grilling. What has become my newfound favorite is brisket. It's definitely, it's time consuming, but me and one of my buddies, we grind it out, and I would say mostly me grind it out because it's always at my house. But that's become like the favorite. It's just you got to commit, and it's an expensive buy. So
is that like a 12, 14-hour process, or how long?
Yeah. So it could be 10 to 12, just depending on your fire, if you cheat or not. So like, if you choose to like cook it 5-6 hours on the grill, and then you could finish it in the oven because it already has the smoke ring and things of that sort. So yeah, it just depends on a lot of factors, but it is a long cook and you have to commit to it. As far as games, love the Assassin's Creed.
That's a good,
the Assassin's Creed saga. Was just playing Shadows within the past month. I'm about finished. Well, I finished the main storyline, so that's probably like one of my go-tos. And then I would say love the Ghost of Yotai. So another pretty cool series of games. So I like long games, and it's funny. I grew up as the oldest of three, and all I play is like these one-player games. And my brothers come and be like, "Oh, what games you got?" Like, I got this one-player game. so that's always fun. Right.
Okay, the last thing you said, and you shared that you're a super uncle. Now, these are the fun type of uncles that folks like to be around. Tell me a little bit about you being a super uncle.
Yeah, so 3 nephews and a niece. They are definitely busy, and somehow, like, I don't have kids, but they always end up at my house. They love the grilling part of it, but also because I am a gamer, they love the game. So like, I have a PS5 and a PS4, and so like, I could be like, I don't let them touch the PS5, but that's between us. But the PS4 is like, go at it, and like they'll go play wrestling or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so it's like, and we typically keep good snacks, and so they just come grab stuff.
I hear a little bit of like enough of spoiling, but also just you like to provide a good time to them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, man. What is something that you learned about yourself this past year?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the one thing that I learned this year is I don't want to say that I'm driven, but I think like hard work has a way of paying off. Like I think this year has been one of those years where like honestly the first quarter was amazing in so many ways. There's been so many opportunities, and it's just come from the work that I've been doing or the recommendations from people. Like I got a Rising Professional Award from Illinois Trio. Um,
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I got into this leadership cohort. Like I want to say competitive, but it probably is competitive with like leaders from all around like the greater Chicagoland area. So it's been a really great year, and I think it just shown me like my leadership is needed, and that sometimes I think I've been carrying like my imposter syndrome on my shoulders, where I deserve to be in every space that I'm in, and I think that's what I'm learning. Where like people could think or say I don't belong in these spaces, but I do belong in these spaces because I have something to offer. And so I'm coming to that, being, I still like to say the semi-young professional that I am, but I know I'm getting closer to probably being of unk status, laughing but serious. But, I think that's what I've learned this year.
What is something that you're looking forward to?
That is another great question. So I think between two things, I am newly married, so
Congratulations!
Thank you. So,
wow!
Right before Thanksgiving last year, so we're just that whole journey and working life out. But probably the thing that but it's between that and just I'm supposed to start school in the fall. So I am slated
restarting
to
school.
Yeah, slated to start a doctoral program in the fall.
Wow!
So a little
Congratulations!
anxious, nervous. So I think between those two things, it's like it's exciting, it's scary,
Yeah.
but we're here. Like we're gonna figure it out. But I think that those are the two things that I can think of. Outside of just seeing what's next. Right? I like the good fight. And I know we'll probably talk about it, but just seeing what is to come in our future, especially in the grand scheme of trio programs in this country.
You are handling all the new stuff with a lot of poise and grace, James. So kudos to you and congrats on all the things that come in your way. And again, congratulations on being recently married, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I want to take a moment back in time. So let's take a step back. Can you tell us about your family upbringing? Uh, what, yeah, what was that like for you?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. So I mentioned already, I'm the oldest. So I don't want to say it's hazy, but like I always tell people, I grew up the oldest, of three boys. My parents divorced when I was 5. And so those things are kind of prominent because I feel like it made me more responsible and grow up faster than I probably should because you're the oldest. And like, there's times I remember, you got to help your siblings with homework, those type of things, just because, I knew the work. And so, but that's what I remember. And I grew up with, what was it, 7, 8 of us, 7 cousins, and we all went to the same school at some point in time. So that's like another piece, where I just remember, I definitely chose a different career, but my aunt used to always say like, "Hey James, it's a lot of y'all boys. Somebody has to be a lawyer, and it's gonna be you. So go to school and get an education." So those are the things I remember from, just my upbringing.
How would your family describe you specifically?
I think the go getter, somebody who always doing something. If you ask my nephew, you always traveling. But I think some of those things because I think in a grand scheme of it, right? We're here on the Let's Talk Trio podcast. I'm a first gen graduate, and so I am in a lot of ways. I don't want to say one of the only graduates, but like you can see it. Like my parents, no college degrees. Like on my mom's side, I have a cousin who is a college graduate, but really just paving the way for others and showing them like, hey, you can do this, or like maybe you should be thinking about this. And I think about just the foresight of, not who was I thinking, but like to get a master's degree at like 25, and some people are still like, oh, I'm working, and then they're like, oh, I need to go back to school because I need to progress forward in my career. And me doing that has like showed other people or inspired. Like I had an aunt who, I think at 40 something, she was like, nephew, I went back to school because of you. Like I saw you do
Oh,
it. So
wow.
I think some of those things. So I think all of that were like, of course they'll say smart. I don't like to think I'm the smartest person, but I just believe in just the hard work that we do pay off, and just the right energy that you put out, you get that energy back. And so, just, grateful to be able to, inspire others.
Absolutely. What were some of your earliest career dreams as a kid? You mentioned lawyer. Is that something like your family wanted for you?
Yeah, so I think my aunt wanted that. Um, in my mind, I think one of my first careers was like an architect. I
Hmm.
just love playing with Legos, like no lie. And then at one point, I had in my mind I wanted to be president, but then at some
Oh,
point up until 2008, you see that like, oh, I don't have the right skin color to be president, and so then
yeah.
2008 was like completely different. So I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
I want that type of smoke these days. Because I tell people, there's a lot of there's so much politics in higher ed, and like,
Oh, for sure.
so it's like a good mix of, the 2 degrees that I have, and so I really like it. But I would say those probably were like the two that I wanted, or I thought of myself as a kid. But the lawyer definitely, like my aunt used to say that, like I said, grew up all these boys, and she like, somebody got to be the one to get y'all out of trouble.
And I like how it always falls on the oldest to be
Yeah.
like, we have lofty expectations of you.
But see, in that retrospect, I wasn't
Yeah.
the oldest. I was like the middle ish. If you look at all the
Ah.
grandkids, so I feel like I'm like
Oh.
exactly in the middle, of it. So it was like, but I don't know. I think it's just, people see something in you that you don't see,
Hmm.
and it's funny when you can have conversations and like my brother, he was like, man, he was like, I used to hate when they used to call you the professor growing up and this that, and the other, and he was like, man, now look at you, and he'll say, he's like, man, he's like, my GPA was higher than yours, and it's another, but he took a different career
Yeah.
path, and that's okay, right, that's okay,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
I think people just see something in you, and I think unintentionally speak things into you, and those things come to fruition.
Absolutely. Can you talk about the early part of your education? What did you enjoy the most?
I think just reading. So there was a point where love reading. I think by the time I finished fifth grade, I had read like the first four Harry Potter books. I had read
Wow.
the autobiography of Malcolm X by
Hmm.
Alex Haley, and so I think I just love reading, right? And so I was. I think about the school I spent third through sixth grade at, where Chicago is a different beast. Like when you look at education, there are some
Oh, for sure.
schools that are up to par and some that aren't. I was at a probably not up to par school, and so I feel like what got me through that being at that school was I was good at reading on my own. Like, you get in trouble as a kid. Mom like, well, you can't play the game today. Go read a book. So, but she didn't know I like reading. So, um, yeah. So I think some of that, right? I remember those things, and then I transferred schools in
Hmm.
seventh grade for seventh, eighth grade, and I feel like that
Hmm.
changed the whole trajectory of what my life is today, because I had a teacher where, like I said, the reading was never an issue. My math, I wasn't up to par in math, and she helped get
Hmm.
me up to par over 1 year in math. Like, it was crazy how much time. Like, I'm talking about before school Saturdays, and
Wow.
that changed just what access to high schools I had, because I didn't have to go to the neighborhood school. I could say, hey, I want to go to
Hmm.
this school or this school. So I think seventh grade really just changed my whole trajectory, and having the right people. I quote, and just having my first mentor in seventh grade, Mr. McLaughlin, who was the computer teacher. He saw something in me, and he was like, I got to keep you around. and he just was very intentional on cultivating our relationship and making sure he let me know, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I see what you're doing. Maybe you should do this. Or
Mm-hmm.
and it worked out. Like I appreciate it. Like, and I'm glad I've been able to tell him, like, hey, I appreciate everything you've done, because some people didn't have him as a McLaughlin, right? I
Mm-hmm.
could have
Mm-hmm.
easily went down the wrong path, but he kept me straight, and he let me know, like, hey, you're handling your business, you can come kick it with me. If you weren't handling business, he's like, don't come see me. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
that was what we needed, growing up.
Absolutely. Do you, when you think about this time in your education, do you recall like if college was something that was always encouraged? I know your aunt said we got to have a lawyer in the family, but was there like a sense of college will be the path for you, or it was encouraged for you?
No, I'm gonna say no, because the area I grew up in, there's not many people you can say or remember going to college. And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember hearing anything of college in those, I would say, developmental years. It came,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I'm gonna steal it, but that came in high school, and I got a whole
Oh.
spiel, with that. And I know that's one of the questions, but I don't remember it. You just hear like, "Hey, you're smart," but I don't think college ever was a conversation like that, because I am first gen. I do remember. No, I don't think she would have been in college then, because I do have an older cousin on my mom's side who actually
Mm-hmm.
graduated from UIC where I work. But
Mm-hmm.
she's like, what, 10, 11 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I don't remember it, but it came in high school for sure.
Okay. So as we get to that question there, I want to ask, what preparations did you or your family make to transition into high school? Because here we have like you've worked or you've seen at least elementary schoolers and middle schoolers. It's
Hmm.
a crazy world in that arena. How did your preparation go from that to high school?
I don't want to say there wasn't any. I think it was, it was just kind of like, hey, you got to do this. This is what's next. I
Hmm.
remember my first day of high school, my mom catching the bus with me to go to school to show me how to get there, and then she
Hmm.
keeping on to work downtown Chicago.
Hmm.
But I don't want to say no preparation, because, like I said, I was the only person from my graduating class that went to Kenwood from the elementary school. So I want to say that's not uncommon, but that could depend on what school. So it was kind of like, I don't want to say I struggled. It was just I had to meet people. Ran into some people from, like, when I went to that other school, third through sixth. And so, but yeah, but I don't think there was anything. I felt like everything was on the fly. And then with Kenwood's thing, so I went to Kenwood Academy. Kenwood Academy is in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago, and a lot of people know down the street from the Obama's house.
Oh
Um,
wow,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So interesting.
that's so cool.
Yeah, interesting when he won. But Kenwood had this one word mission the 4 years I was there. Can you guess what the one word mission was?
Either it's education or success.
College.
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 Wow. Okay.
Yep, it was college.
Right in
So
line with our theme.
yep, yep. So it was funny. So, like, literally, and I will tell you, this is the day of orientation I missed, but we had like this week long orientation, and during orientation, they would take you to a college, like during orientation.
Hmm.
So one of those days you're going on a college visit. I know, because when I got older and I was a junior and senior mentor, I was one of the chaperones for the, freshman divisions I was over, down the line. But this is the one day that I missed,
Hmm.
of orientation, because my mom couldn't drive me, because she's like, "Oh, I gotta go to work. I can't drive you." So I'm like, "Well, I'm not going." But when you hear this for 4 years, and every assembly, in classes, it sticks. And then I started going on college tours, and that was a whole different, experience. Like, I think I can do this. Or you
Hmm.
see
Hmm.
people who walk the hallways of you or similar background, you're like, oh, maybe I can do this. So I started going on college tours early. So I went to NIU as a sophomore in high school for the first time. Didn't know that's where I would end up going, but that's the first time I stepped on campus through the mentoring program I was on in high school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me more about your high school years. What did you enjoy most about this time?
High school was fun, and you like to joke and be like, "Huh." High school probably was like those great years because it was so much fun. I learned so much about myself. I learned that there was power in leadership and just rewards, like unofficial rewards, were like, as a parent, your parents love to see it, but then sometimes like, okay, I got to reel you back in because there's a lot going on, and you've been going 3 weekends this month, like, need you at the house, and but just love that there was so much to do. The exposure you can get, if you go to the right school. I feel like Kenwood was the right school because, like, so many great, staff. I even commend our principal, just her work ethic, for you to be a principal with 1,700 students in the school, and everybody by name and face, which was scary at first. But then people no, like, she knows you because, you're not a problem child. Like, and I was just like, cause I'm like, how do this lady know who I am? Because never been in the principal's office. We never had any direct, interactions, but she could come in the classroom and be like, "Hey James, how's this going?" Or what happened? It's just like, it was pretty scary, but loved the college tour. So I did the Kenwood Academy Brotherhood. It was oversaw by my mentor, Dr. Wyatt, who was also a fellow Husky. He got his doctorate from NIU. But I joined the Brotherhood as a sophomore, and I feel like that just opened my eyes because I was able to go on college tours. Like, yes, I mentioned going to NIU as a sophomore, but then that spring break in the spring, we did like a whole college tour on the East Coast, and then came back and went to a couple schools in Ohio, like Ohio State, and it was fun. But I think from that you can see, like, hey, I can be in these places. And Dr. Wyatt always had a niche about him, and he still does it because we just took his godson to Northern for a visit, and he always makes us ask questions, and put some thought into the question. And, because as much as, yes, these colleges want people, but the colleges want people that want to be there. So if you ask them surface level questions, you may not make it past the recruiters, and they'll be able to see that. So, but those are the things, and I found who I am, right? We joke about, probably from this you can tell I was a quiet kid, and maybe that's also why some of the other things
that would be surprising, actually, to me.
Yeah, I was a quiet kid, and I found my voice in high school, and I remember the Brotherhood, we had these award ceremonies, and Dr. Wyatt was like, "James, you should give a speech on leadership at the award ceremony." And I was like, okay. And my mom didn't know. So my mom and stepdad came, and my mom was like, "This is not my son. Like, who is this?" But it was me. But I think that just goes to show where, like, I was able to, like I said, able to find myself and do some very crucial leadership development that carried over until, into life.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. Like, that you built those skills, that you were able to find your voice in high school. In terms of involvement, like, did you have a lot of going on while you were in high school? Like, were you involved in a lot of activities, groups, clubs, organizations?
Oh yeah, all of the above. So you would laugh. I was, you do the senior superlatives. So yeah. So the one I got was most likely to join every club. So that was me.
So time out, James, because you said you're an introvert. This makes you sound like you're extroverted, like you
but that's what I'm saying, though. I found myself in high school. Like, people don't know how much development went on in high school. Like, you know, because like the first year, I could say I was probably more introverted because I didn't do anything. So like my first year of high school, my mom said, "Hey, all you can do is go to school and come home." And then I was having some trouble with math because I had the hardest math teacher in the school. She's like, "Okay, you go to math tutoring," but that was it. But sophomore year to senior year, I ran it up. I did everything, like student council, yearbook. I was doing stuff outside of school just because, you know, people introduce you like, "Hey, can you go to this?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a Saturday. I want to be home." And then you realize like, "Oh, I can go there. There's free food." Or you get to meet people from around the city, like other students from around the city. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to these events. But then you just get roped into, you know, other stuff. So yeah, like it's funny. People probably wouldn't have known it, but a lot of leadership development, sophomore through senior year of high school. Like I'm not gonna lie, it's actually funny.
I'm going to throw you a wild card question, and you saw this coming. What music or songs made your soundtrack during this time?
That's a hard. I think whatever was hot, like whatever was hot. Yeah. I remember listening to mixtape Drake during that time. You know, when he first, they was like, "Wheelchair Jimmy's rapping." So that, but I think whatever was hot, you know, Lil Wayne definitely has to be up there. What particular album is definitely Shooting Blank, but I think whatever was hot and people were listening to, that's what I was listening to because.
Right on.
Yeah, because that was like after graduation that Drake's first album came out, and that definitely was a graduation gift when it came out.
Did you know what colleges you wanted to attend?
I wanted to go where whoever was going to tell me yes. And so I think, like, and I could talk about this now, but I always tell people, like, high school was interesting, right? And I think as individuals, we have things going on. So, like, I hated rejection, and that's any type of rejection. That's rejection talking to a girl or rejection from a school. So I wanted to go where whoever was going to accept me. And so being at Kenwood was a pretty cool place because we had a college lab and we had college scum, and they would do on-site. So I did some of these on-site, and so I tell this, and I don't think it's me bragging, or maybe I won't say the school, but I had got into this school pretty early in the cycle. So like November, I got into the school, and I told myself, like, "Hey, I'm going there. I'm going there." Because the first school, yes, I'm cool. I'm going there. And as I mentioned, with NIU, enjoyed it. Like, say, you know, us being trio people, you know, I always tell students, don't go anywhere you haven't visited. I will say I never visited that school, and it was a little far from the house. But Kentwood was strict in a way, and I can tell you because I got some phone calls. I got a lot of talking to. Kentwood had this rule where you had to apply to 5 colleges. And so you had to apply to 5 colleges, and if you didn't, they wouldn't let you walk at commencement. So yeah. So they're calling me like, "Hey, you haven't applied to 5 schools. You've applied to 2, and we need you to apply to 3 more schools, or you're not going to walk at commencement."
Wow.
And it got, I want to say it got bad. It got bad because a lot of people that were close to me, like, I was cool with my AP government teacher. He like, "James, like, you got to do this." It got to the point where I was working at this nonprofit that, yes, they work with a lot of high school students, but they're calling the executive director like, "Hey, James need to handle his business." So it's like, so I'm hearing it in all these places like, "Dude, you got to apply to 3 more schools." And so the Brotherhood, we had an event, and I can't make this up. We had an event because Dr. Wyatt made this book on how to start a mentoring program. And so we did this press release at Kenwood. And one of our alums who actually started the Brotherhood, one of the founding seniors, he was going to NIU and he was there with Mr. Smith or Dr. Smith. Mr. Smith will be getting his doctorate this Friday, so kudos to him. But he was there with Dr. Smith, and he was like, "Man, James," Cal was like, "Man, James, like you can go to Northern. They got a good support system. They got a Center for Black Studies. You would do well there." And I'm like, okay. And then Mr. Smith came, added some more stuff, and I added it to my list. Like I said, because I still had 3 more schools to apply to, and ultimately ended up making the decision like in March to go to Northern. So I would say I wanted whoever wanted me, but I really didn't have any elaborate thoughts. Like I would say I did like trust the process and like do stuff because like I joke and tell people, funny enough, I've known my wife like most of my life. Like I graduated from 8th grade with her cousin, so we met somewhere in between graduating 8th grade and starting high school. But she went to school in Ohio. When I was a junior in Ohio, this one particular school, like, hey, we know it's getting to the time. We like to bring you on campus for a visit. So like they paid flight and everything, picked me up from the airport for me to come visit the campus. So I do like to think I gave it a fair shake and just visiting like different schools and whatever. But I think when it came down to it, NIU made sense, and I think sometimes you need hometown champions, and so. Unofficially, what I know, and I don't think I realized, Dr. Wyatt was a Husky. He got his doctorate from Northern. So that's like an unofficial, what's the name, where I'm like, okay, I'm following in my mentor step because he walked these same steps, and he even set me up where, hey, you go to Northern, I need you to go meet these people to get locked in. And, I did it. So I would say, I wanted who wanted me, and NIU, I wouldn't say it was a wild card, but I made the choice after having a conversation with Cal McGee and now Dr. Derek Smith, who still works in the Center for Black Studies. So, so I owe that to them just, speaking it to me and letting me know that, like, I would come there and I would be supported, and I was.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. What did graduating from high school mean to you and to your family?
I think it meant a lot, like to see it, because I think somewhere between junior and senior year of high school, my grandfather moved back south to Marietta, Georgia, and so I think it definitely became this play into like. Okay, you get to see it. You get to see it firsthand. Because as you get older, you hear stuff and like, I missed some developmental years from my younger brother. He's an electrician. I would say he makes more money than I do. He's an electrician, but he tells me about his plight. He's like, man, bro. He said you went around. He said, but man, I ain't want to go to graduation. He said the only reason I went to graduation is because, and this is high school. He was like, Mom said she's gonna whoop me. He's like, that's why I did it. And I was like, I said, dang, I guess I didn't realize it, but because we are 3 years apart, I'm in college, doing that battle, and he's finishing up, high school. So, but I think just giving him see it because I didn't fight, anybody. I knew that was something I needed to do, and even like, the people at the school, because I was so involved. There was nothing that I could not get, right? Where like, extra tickets to graduation. Like I was able to get those just because of who I was like, oh, hey, you're student council president. Here you go. Like, thank you for your service. It's like, so for me, it was just like, hey, we're doing this. And you're able to share this with, others. So like Mr. McLaughlin, that mentor, was able to have him there. I think him and his wife. Came, to support because he was a part of my, my journey and me getting there, and that's what he wanted. He wanted to see me, and I think even my mom, like they were excited, and I think even excited to be able to get me out of, Chicago for a bit, because of, tension and things that can happen when you have, idleness going on.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Are you seeking guidance to enhance your TRIO project's effectiveness and success? Look no further. Nosotros Education Center, NEC, is here to empower your TRIO project with expert consulting services. NEC's mission is to promote the effectiveness and impact of TRIO programs. Since 2003, NEC has specialized in providing professional development and in-service staff trainings, allowable cost services, for TRIO projects across the country. The team at NEC, with over 60 years of combined TRIO experience, offers customized workshops and seminars for project staff, compliance assessments, external evaluations, working on and submitting APRs, database customization and training, development of policies and procedures manuals, and project implementation or reorganization services. Additionally, NEC has secured over $774 million in federal funding with a 92% success rate through their live and on-demand proposal workshops, assistance with data collection and review, detailed technical reviews, and comprehensive proposal development services. Join the hundreds of colleges, agencies, and TRIO projects across the country who benefited from NEC's expertise. Nosotros Education Center, your partner in TRIO's project success. Visit their website at nosotros.edu.org. Again, that's nosotrosedu.org.
And now, back to the podcast. You decided to attend Northern Illinois University. Mm-hmm. Why did you choose this college? What drew you to it?
I think it was close enough home where it wasn't terrible to go and come back in a day. It wasn't. But I think some of the support systems, right? When you look at it, they had a Center for Black Studies. I learned so much about myself culturally that you don't typically learn in school. But then I think, we talk about programs like TRIO. They had a TRIO program for a number of years. I was fortunate to join that program, and, TRIO instilled in me that graduate school was a viable option for me. Before I joined TRIO, I wasn't thinking of graduate school. I was just thinking of graduation. And then when I started meeting with my TRIO advisor, and I always just like to bring her name up, Genesis Rue. She let me know, like, hey, you can go to graduate school. And I'm like, you sure? She was like, yes, I'm telling you, you can go to graduate school. So I think those type of things led me to Northern, like I said, because of the resources. And then I think, like I said, unintentionally, I had a lot of influences that I didn't know from, like, a Dr. Wyatt who went to Northern. And I know it. Dr. Wyatt was happy when I chose to go to Northern, because I was able to, I want to say, live on his legacy, but also just cultivate relationships he had and build my own relationships. And like Dr. Smith, telling me, he said, Dr. Wyatt told me that, like, if we kept you around, what you could do for us, right? We're like, it's not a one-way street. Like, I was dependable, I was reliable. So, like, if you need James to do something, he gonna make sure it happened. And I didn't know this, right? I'm this 18-year-old, you're just figuring out. But Dr. Wyatt say, go here. I'm gonna go there because that's just the respect I have from him. So I think just those things, like being close and you being able to see somebody who looks like you go and be successful. So like Cal, S.K. McGee, he put in the bid, but I think in the stories he's heard from Doc, he's like, hey, you can come here, you're going to do great. And I'm appreciative of it. So, and I think those are the things that led me to Northern. And I don't regret it. I feel like I have a lot of, school pride, but I think also you just need hometown heroes where you can be an advocate for, students, one in Chicago, to say like, hey, you can go there, you can be successful, but just being able to show people that great things can happen and you don't got to go across the country. And that's not a knock to anybody.
That's true.
I just think that we all have different journeys, and we all were meant we all were put here for a mission, and everybody's mission is different. So I feel like mine was going to Northern and navigating it, and the journey I'm on is crazy, but it makes sense. After me looking at my professional career, because I mentioned starting school, my doctoral program will be at Northern, and so like it makes sense, right? Because
Absolutely.
I give so much time and energy to the school as an alum. And it was like, someone like, hey, we know you're a double Husky. That sounds great, but you could be a triple Husky. And I'm like, that do sound, all right, let's see, let's do it, but I think that's why. Like, it's been good to me. I've had a lot of great experiences, and I joke and tell people, because clearly I've chosen Northern 3 times now. I don't think I would have got some of the same experiences going other places, right?
Absolutely.
The choice to stay for my master's at Northern, when I tell you so many doors opened up, I wouldn't have had those same opportunities if I went somewhere else as a new graduate assistant, a new graduate student, because they knew me at Northern. They said, hey, we can give James this responsibility. We can let him chaperone this trip with 50 students, to DC. And it was crazy. And when I tell people, they're like, bro, you was able to do that in grad school? I was like, yes. They were like, that's crazy. So I just think that they were good to me, and I just try to hope that I omit a little of what was given to me back into the world.
Absolutely. Can you talk about that transition from high school to college? What were some of the major differences that you noticed?
Everything. No more mom to wake you up if you're sleeping in late. The free time. Living on campus was crazy. So I lived on campus the first year, and just like, you find out who was good and bad at time management. I was bad at time management, being in that space, because
Sure.
I had 8 a.m.s, but yet I was staying up to like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning doing who knows what, like, kicking with people on my floor where I should be sleeping, getting ready for this 8 a.m., right? Because you got to wake up at 7 so you can do everything and be to class. So I think like some of those things, but definitely the freedom, right? Where, you're not checking in with parents every day. But also I feel like there was, like, I thought there was a lot to do in high school. There was a lot to do in college. And so college became this new open world, and you can say globe even, where it's like, there's so much you can do. What do you want to do? And if you do it, you can put your own mix onto it. So figuring out what was the right space for you to be in. And I think I did a good job of, figuring that out. But so many differences, right? Where mom's not calling every day. You might talk to mom once a week. All type of stuff. Like, it's definitely different. And you got to be intentional. Like, hey, if I eat fried food every day, I got to go to the rec, because the freshman 15 was a thing.
It is a real thing.
It's a real thing. So, all of the above. Like, you had to, and I was fortunate. Like, I always tell people, I was fortunate just to have other influences who would say, like, I always gotta commend my late college mom, Regina Curry, where she'd tell me, she'd be like, "What you eating?" I'd be like, "Oh, that's what I'm eating." She'd be like, "Go get some vegetables." Like, what are you doing? Like, but we need that, because I'm still a kid, and it's funny because I do it to my wife sometimes. I'm like, "There's no vegetables. Like, where are the vegetables?" So yeah, so many differences, but I think, what stands true and true is just finding your place and finding community and making it work.
Absolutely. Did you know what you wanted to major in? Like, were you one of the students that got into college and you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to do? Or were you one of the students that took oh, okay. Yeah, tell us about that.
So, I knew what I wanted to do, like, my sophomore high school. So, as a sophomore, I started doing some work with Mikva Challenge. Mikva Challenge is this organization that works with now 6th through 8th. Mm-hmm. No, not 6th through 8th, 6th through high school, on just becoming civic leaders. They have a bunch of different projects where They take students out campaigning for different candidates, public speaking forums, getting you to speak on issues that are important to you. But now I sound like a salesperson. But I know I'm gonna do political science then. I'm like, oh, I like politics. Politics sound fun. So when I'm going to college, I'm going to be a political science major. So I knew that off the bat coming in day one.
Wow. Like, to have that certainty, I think for a lot of college students that enter college, there's like the struggle of where they want to be, this expectation of where their parents are expecting them to go. Did you have to contend with any of that?
No, I think, my family was happy that I was there and that I was going. There weren't any external pressures. And, being an academic advisor for going on 10 years, I've seen it, where students have those underlying pressures and their parents say no, right? Yep. Where I worked at Columbia College Chicago for a bit. And, that's a performing arts school. And I had a lot of students from China. A lot of tough conversations, right? Where it's like, what are you doing? So I never experienced that personally. They were excited I was there. My mom cracked jokes now where like, because, that aunt, it was my mom's older sister, and she has passed. And so, I was like, Mom, I remember, T used to say this. But, she'd be like, yeah, but you're not a lawyer, so what happened? But that's just my mom, talking stuff. She, she's definitely happy because, like I said, I've been able to do something that, you don't see, right? Where, yes, we could say there's other people with bachelor's degree, but what stands out to me is when I got my master's degree, my aunts, my grandfather's sisters, they're like, man, nephew, we ain't gonna lie, you the first person in the family with a master's degree. And so that's just something to what's name. And I think my mom definitely sees it, and the fact that I was able to make so many things happen. And I want to say not to get help from home, because my mom helped when she could, but once I started working, I was kind of able to fend for myself, where you just learn, or just like I mentioned, the community. When it was stuff going on, they knew, hey James, this event going on, make sure you come through, get a plate, do this, and we used to make it work. Not saying we were starving, but like, if you get a free meal and not go buy a value meal from McDonald's, we're going to take the free meal all day.
Can you tell me, when did you learn about the TRIO Student Support Services program? At what point did they give you or outreach out to you or make contact with you?
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
So that's a loaded question. I feel like I knew freshman year, but I really didn't know all the ins and outs, because two buddies who I started with, they were heavy involved in TRIO. But I just didn't know. Like, I knew, like, there's a culture thing when you black, so like, whenever TRIO would do the barbecue, the staff from the Center for Black Studies would go over there. So like, that was kind of like the intro. Believe it or not, I didn't join TRIO until like my last 2 years. And it just, in which some people are surprised, because like I had some of my former students when I was an SSS advisor, they're like, dude, we can tell because you just go so hard for TRIO. I said, that's because, it's TRIO and you're going to benefit and you're going to get more out of it than you probably put into it. But it wasn't until those last 2 years I joined. And when I say I joined, I got baptized in, right? I'm joining the program. I was working at the front desk for that, for that first year. And it was cool. And that's when I started learning like all it was. So I got to see some of the ins and outs, some of the, weird nuances. Like I always joke with one of my buddies, and I still see him because his girlfriend and I are really close because we worked in SSS together. So by default, we see each other a lot. And so I'm like, man, remember when you was a grad assistant and we supposed to go to Springfield that day and I was the only one that showed up? And he was like, He's like, yeah, I remember that. I said that was the funniest thing ever. And I said, remember we listened to that Justin Bieber album the whole way there? He was like, so it's stuff like that where like it was fun. Yeah. I don't regret it. I regret not finding out I was trio eligible freshman year, like as an adult. Like I wish I could have did more. I wish I could have did a UB or upper bound or talent search, as I have this experience, because I am in a trio space, as a volunteer leader with EOA and the Illinois Trio. And when you hear some of these stories and people talking like, man, I did talent search, I did SSS, I did McNair, and I'd be like, bro, I'm jealous. I only did SSS. Like, what is really going on? So it's stuff like that where, like, loved it. I wish I would have, knew more earlier or just asked more questions. But I feel like I got the same support. It just looked different, right? Like, it looked different for me. And then just adding that fundamental, I can say, hey, I'm an SSS student, and they can get me into these rooms with awesome alums and workers, in the trio world. Like, I love, just meeting, colleagues from all over. Like, I've been able to go the alumni reception, and I go to COE alumni reception a few times and just interact with people. I love it, like, because these are our people. And you hear everybody has a story, and it's interesting. And for 3 years, I was over our Alumni and Achievers Committee for EOA. And so I'm meeting awesome alums who are doing great things in their respective fields. And so to me, it's just like, I'm like, wow, this is dope. This is awesome. And so I just love it. And hopefully my story inspires others, in the same way, right? When you can talk about it where graduate school wasn't in the plan. My trio advisor put that bug in my ear, and I just ran with it. And when she said it made sense. And I was just like, you know what? That kind of makes sense. Let's just see where this takes us. And it took me to, like I said, get my master's degree. And like I said, I believe I was 25 when I finished. And I don't regret it. Like, because it has set a lot of things up for me in motion, and I'm just happy to be on this ride.
Absolutely. Speaking of like your journey in Trio SSS, what are some ways in which the Trio program that you participated in helped you or enhanced your educational journey?
Yeah, I think just the exposure. They always would take us to the grad school fair. Funny again, UIC always used to have this big graduate school fair. So they took us, and I remember it was a van of us. I actually just seen Delisa was the office manager at the time, and she took us. And I remember that it's crazy. I got these memories, and they took us to this graduate school fair. But one, give you the confidence to be able to go and have conversations with people. Hey, what do you offer? What can you do for me? But then also I think just the importance of like exposure, right? Where there are the cultural trips. There are in our case, there was the graduate school trips that they took people on, so you could see yourself. Hey, yes, we know you did this, but here's graduate school. Let's figure it out. And I think it was important for me to just get that exposure, right? And then I think 2 or 3, how important your networks are. When I was a trio advisor, I tried to show up for students the best way I could, right? Where like if a student actually writes a letter of recommendation, 10 times out of 10, I'm writing a letter of recommendation. I remember when I applied for my program, 2 things could be true. When I applied to go to graduate school, I had a deadline from my college mom, Regina Kerr. She said, hey, by this date, you need to have all your stuff in. But of course, being a professional, sometimes you don't have all your ducks in a row, right? Where I still need to have one more conversation for a letter of recommendation. And so I was talking to my trio advisor. She was like, no, put Pastor Wright. Pastor Wright was our trio director. She said, put him, something. And I kid you not, I submitted the application, like, let's say on a Tuesday. I went to the office on a Wednesday because I was trying to catch him. Called him. I was going in the door. He was coming out. And he's like, "Oh, James, you know what's up?" I'm like, "Man, Pastor Ray, I got to talk to you for a second." I'm like, I'm applying to grad school and I put you down. And he's like, "Man, I already took care of it. You good. You good in my book." And I was like, "Oh." So I think that just showed me just like,
Wow.
the importance, like if you do stuff, but also I know in Trio, they wanted those type of interactions, right? If they could help you and support you get to the next step, they were going to do it. And to me, that was an indicator where like say it was crazy to think, but it was just like I was literally going to go see you, and he was like, "Man, I took care of it. Like you good, you
You're
good in
good.
my book."
Wow.
And so I'm like, wow. So maybe it was something in the water. Maybe they had a conversation, but that just let me know. I live for those, and I would say, other moments and just the fun stuff, just to show you like just what the community is, because we had a huge parent population in our trio program. So we had a college parents group, and I was Santa Claus for 2 years. And that's pretty cool because you get to interact, and and it's about service. Because and sometimes I think it's about service to others, right? Where people are stressed and just being able to be in that moment, take those pictures, and so when I see those pictures now, I can laugh at it, but I'm like, yo, this is crazy to think, like, just how irresponsible I was in undergrad, but it made for some good moments.
Talking about those moments, what were some of those favorite moments that stick out in your mind being part of Trio?
Yeah, I think um, the Springfield trip I just mentioned, that was unexpected. Like I said, I think it was like 6 students signed up. I was the only one that showed up. And so it was just like kind of scrambling in the morning because they had 2 vans, but then we condensed it to one. And then Pastor Wright gave us this big bag of, breakfast sandwiches from McDonald's. And was like, all right, here y'all go. And we kind of, I don't want to say we kind of finessed it, but like when we get there, it was a MAP grant rally. So MAP grant is like our statewide grant that they give to, Illinois students who are in college. So it was a MAP grant rally, and I don't want to say we finessed it, but I used to work as a tour guide, so I had this nice red like jacket that had NIU on. So we were sitting there, and they pulled me on stage behind the governor, and the graduates since I went, they ate that up. They was like, "Oh yeah, we send this picture to Pastor right now. We got James on stage." So I would say that, and then as a professional. Man, I had so many great moments, but I was telling this story recently because I have a few colleagues at Wayne State. So when I worked at St. Xavier as an SSS advisor, I got to take 3 guys up to the Men of Excellence conference at Wayne State in Detroit. And St. Xavier is a commuter campus, so most of my students were commuting from home coming to school. So it was funny because I'm joking, but I get it. It's the summer. I've done it before because I lived on campus. But like for the summer, they take the beds apart because it's summer and clean the rooms. So they had to put the beds apart. So to me, it was really funny watching these students who had never lived on campus put these beds together so they could sleep in for the weekend. And I was just like, and somebody was like, James, I said, no. I said, it was the funniest thing. I have a video somewhere because it was just so funny. I was like, yep, this is video proof. But I think some of those, like, just, having those experiences and being able to take students outside of their comfort zones, right? Like we took students to the Shed Aquarium. And I was surprised at how many students hadn't been to the Shed Aquarium, right? Where like just, the access and whatever. And yes, I tell people I hated the Shed Aquarium growing up. My stepdad worked at the Shed Aquarium for a number of years, and we had to go to every family day, for a number of years. And then it was always like 2 days over the summer just to get outside of the house. Like, so I hated the Shed, but I didn't think of, like, said, in that case, my privilege and my stepdad worked there versus these students who had never been. So I think those are some of my fondest memories. Like we took students to an escape room and they lost it. Like it was it
Awesome.
was crazy.
That's awesome. What is something that you learned about yourself while at the NIU campus?
mm, I think my ability to network and be a connector, and I think that still sounds true today. Like
Mm.
at one
Mhm.
point, you don't think of how important this skill can be, but literally, my job sometimes is like, "Hey, James, we're gonna put you in a room and go talk to as many people as possible," and it's like, "Cool, let's do it." And people point that out, like, and it's something I think I started noticing in high school when you would get invited to these fundraisers, like that Mikva Challenge org. I went to a number of fundraisers for them. As a student, just to talk to the people in the room. But
Yeah,
that skill has helped me so much more now. Where like just the curiosity, right, and those Dr. Wyatt questions, and you just asking something that shows people just how interested you are, right? Where I was just on
absolutely. Yeah.
Northern's campus, and I ran into the department chair for my program, and she was like, "Yo, I just I just pushed accept on your application," and I was like, "Yeah, you did," and she was like, "Yeah, I heard that you reached out to Danae, and Danae is the advisor for the program, and she told
Mhm.
me that y'all had a great conversation." So I said, "Yeah, I was just curious because." Technically I took one of the classes in the curriculum in my master's program. And she was like, James, we're going to take care of that for you. Like, we'll give you the credit for it. We'll retro it for you. And so it's just like those small things and like the curiosity that just helps, in the grand scheme of things. And I think that's one thing that I learned, as I keep going, that network, talk to people, and
Mhm.
even if you have a negative experience with somebody, or somebody else does, don't let that cloud your judgment because your
True.
experience could be completely
True.
different. And you may,
True.
I don't want to say you may need that person, but you may need that person later. And so those are some of the important lessons that I feel like I've learned.
Right on. Did you have a particular career in mind as you progressed through your college career? You're going into junior, senior. Is there like a job you're thinking of or a career you're thinking of?
Honestly, no. I think the only thing that was there's like, oh, go work for a politician somewhere because, of course, I
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
coming out
yeah.
of college and being a politician, but that was it. But then, like, remember, I was on the 5 year plan, so when I joined Trio, that's when graduate school became an option. And then my last semester of not of graduate school, undergrad, I took an
Hmm.
intro to higher ed course. And so, actually, what's funny, I still have interactions with that instructor because she is fellow Husky alum, but she does some work with the advancement alumni at Northern. So we have a lot of
Hmm.
interactions. But I tell people, I say, y'all don't know. Liz was my instructor when my last year of undergrad, and Liz said, "No, I
Hmm.
remember that." She said, "That's why I invite you into all these spaces because one, I know what you brought, but also like." What you're worth, and you have some really cool experiences that people need to hear about or prospective students need to hear about. So,
Right.
but I think outside of that, go work for a politician. But then when I decided graduate school, I definitely saw the career in higher ed, and I think first I was thinking, what's funny, I was thinking like, oh, I want to work in retention. Retention for students. Don Bramlett, who was our Black Male Initiative advisor, he was like the retention coordinator. I'm like, oh, I could do something
Hmm.
like Don does. But then you see, in Trio, that's one of our underlining, missions, right? Where you're always looking at those retention numbers. So it made sense. And then to work for a program that you're an alum of, I think it gives you a very unique perspective and interaction with the students.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you talk about the moment you graduated from NIU? What did this moment mean to you personally?
Which time?
Let's go with the first one, the
The first
undergraduate.
time. Honestly, the first time I wasn't as excited, right? And hear me out.
Okay.
Um, I
I'm gonna have
say
to give you,
this,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and I'll explain. So yes, it was a very exciting moment. People were excited. I had a lot of support, but internally, I wasn't done. Right. I still had to take a class after graduating, and so to me, it was like mission incomplete. Right. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm very transparent with my journey and what happened. And so, yeah, I still had a class, so I kind of like felt like, all right, I'm doing this, but like, job's not done, right? Like what Kobe Bryant said, job's not done. I don't deserve to celebrate. Like
you're reminding me of a certain basketball player that I don't. Do you watch basketball at all?
yeah.
Kobe Bryant.
Yep,
Before he
yep.
passed away, and one of the finals game. I remember him interviewing. The Lakers are my absolute favorite team. I know you're probably a Bulls fan, but I remember one of his interviews. He said he was not. He didn't look happy because the team hadn't progressed yet. And the interview goes like, "You don't look happy, Kobe. What's going on?" He's like, "Is the job finished? The job's not done."
So yeah, so and that's how I felt because I still had this lingering core. So yes, it was celebratory. People celebrated me, but the job wasn't done. I still had to take a summer class after I graduated. So I felt like it was kind of tainted a bit. I felt like an imposter. You know, in the moment. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's what did graduating with your master's, what did that mean for you? I know we're going to talk about your master's journey, but can you give us like, did that feel a little bit different, or did it feel like you accomplished something?
Oh yeah, that felt way different. I mean, of course, it was difficult. The journey itself was difficult because my mom's older sister, my aunt, passed, and my grandfather passed my last year. So the same semester, actually. So first week of classes, aunt passed. Right after my birthday in October, my grandfather passed. So it was really an emotional roller coaster because, you know, these are your people, like, and it's like, okay, so that was difficult. It was fun to an extent where I got placed in a pretty cool office as a grad assistant, and they supported me 110%, right? Where there was an opportunity to be just for me to like build my resume, and I was excited to do it, right? Where I was able to, I co-taught a class with my college mom, right? Just because I wanted teaching experience. My graduate assistant, they would support me. They say, well, hey, if you're doing it, what time is the class? We're gonna make it work for you. And so that, it was fun. So like I have all these mentees, former students, you know, who like, man, I remember you was my teacher, or James my teacher. And it's pretty cool, you know, to think and say we're like, yep, you know, I played a role in your development, or we helped you figure this out. But it did feel different because when I was done. It was just you lost some of the people that was there supporting you, and that was the one thing because internally, that 2016 when we had my family reunion. So my family reunion on my dad's side is always Memorial Day weekend, and I had got word that like my grandfather was given less than a year to live because of cancer, and so he didn't say anything because like my grandfather was he was probably more excited than me when I graduated from undergrad, but when I would try to have conversations with him about the master's degree, he wouldn't engage. But I think it's because subconsciously he knew that he might not be there, so he never like took the bait on the conversations. But that one felt way different because, like I said, when I was done, right? Where like there was no overarching, you know, issues of like, hey, you're not done. I was actually done when I graduated, and so many people helped me get to where I was, right? We're like, James, you were so good to us. What can we do to get you done? Because, you know, I had a little after grad school. It was a little rocky, but I grinded out. So like, I took 12 credit hours my last semester, and that's kind of not the norm and unheard of for a graduate student. But that was to be done and to not come back and do a summer class, which one of my instructors was like, dude, we're going to get you done because you deserve to be done, but also what can we configure? And so like my last semester, like I had two actual courses. I had an independent study, and then I had an internship. And the internship was something, you know, I pitched the idea, and Dr. Smith was like, J-Rock, I got you. You know, you've been looking out for me all these years. If I can do this to get you across the finish line, this is what we're going to do. So whatever you need me to say, that's your internship. And, you know, and we made it work. But
that's fantastic.
Yeah, but when I was done. And like I said, there was no abstract. And like, you know, I think it was July. When the degree came, I was able to just like, yes, I have it. This is me. You know, there was no abstract like when I graduated from undergrad.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like you went from undergrad immediately into graduate school. Was that like already planned in your mind? Like, this is what I'm just going to jump right in because I don't want to take a big break.
Nope, it just happened. Like I said, graduate school was never on my plan. It was from when I started talking to my trio advisor that I saw it as a viable option. But then, as I started paying attention to some of the students around me, there was a huge population of like blacks who went to NIU and went to grad school directly after. And they was like, man, that's just what you should do. And then as I started working in higher ed, so I worked at a private school first, I needed a master's degree to work there. So if I would have came out without the master's degree, I could have been stuck, you know, in limbo.
Oh, for sure.
And so I don't regret it because I needed it. And, you know, even like now, I was thinking about going to school earlier because I'm like, well, I'm used to going to school. I might as well keep going. But then, like, somebody did give me a great piece of advice. He's like, man, he was like, one of my mentors, he's like, James, he said, I hear you. He said, but you're not going to have any work experience, and that's not going to benefit you long run. So, yes, it may open some doors, but then, like, people respect the work. He said, if you haven't done the work, you might not be able to have respect to your what's name, but then also, there's a level of, like, you need more work experience to do certain programs, and that's, I have the work experience now because at almost 10 years in, it's like, you know, you've seen some things. I've seen 4 different institutions, you know, so I have all of that to, you know, take with me as I approach this new journey. But, oh yeah, definitely, it wasn't planned, but it just happened.
Absolutely. What inspired you to pursue the program that you applied to? What was the thought process behind that?
The higher ed program, I think, you know, as I was thinking about it, and like I took that intro to higher ed course, and I'm looking at everything I've done and how all of these areas make up higher ed. So, cultural centers was one of them. I worked at the Center for Black Studies as a student worker. Admissions, I was a tour guide in admissions. I had studied abroad. So you look at study abroad, you look at trio, and I'm like, oh, I can do this. And you might laugh when I say this, but me and Liz have a good joke about this. I said, Liz, remember I took that class with you? She's like, yes. I remember we watched Monsters University, and you explained to us like the different function areas of higher ed. You know, it sounds funny, but I was kind of sold, like, oh, I could do some of this, right? Because you've seen so many components of it, student involvement. And yeah, I think that's what drew me to it. Like taking that course kind of solidified it for me. Like, all right, I can do this. Yeah. This is a valuable option. But yeah, we watched Monsters University to explain what higher ed is. Like funny.
That's a good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I know what I gotta do. I gotta show it. I gotta show it to my nephew and niece. You know, my nephews and niece.
Absolutely.
So hopefully something stick there.
What are some major differences you notice between undergraduate and graduate courses?
Yeah, so graduate courses, at least all the ones I took, they were once a week. So once a week, 2 hours, 40 minutes. So that was the one thing. And also most of them were like night-ish. I had one course that was on a Saturday, but most of my classes were like either 3 to 5:40 or 6 to 8:40. But then the classes were paper based. I can't speak for other people because I know my business friends will hate me, but there were no tests in graduate school, sort of say. Like everything was like a paper research. And I think that was the main difference. And you learn the importance of like you gotta connect with people because if you don't connect with people, you won't be successful in a graduate program. Like an undergraduate, you could probably get away with like not connecting with people, but even then, it can get hard if you miss a day. But in graduate school, you have to because so much is like group work, this, and then you just got to build that rapport. And I was lucky enough to have built good rapport with even my instructors where, if there was issues, I was able to say those issues, and they knew I wasn't, telling a lie. Like I was transparent. Like, hey, I'm working with this person. They're terrible. So I just want you to know this has not been an ideal experience, and you're gonna get what you're gonna get. Like, and that has panned out. But I think, what full time looks like as a grad student versus undergraduate, and I think the hazing, right?
Yeah.
And that's funny to say, right? Where you have to learn to read these huge research papers, right? Where I remember one time when our teachers gave us this reading, and it was impossible over the course of a week. Like, yes, I'm saying a week, but it was like I did it on purpose because I need you to be able to learn how to go in and dissect the important parts and figure out how to break this information down because if you go get another degree, this is how it's gonna be. It's like, oh dang. So just some of those things.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about your career evolution? Did you ever see yourself working for a TRIO program?
Like I said, I don't think so, but I don't regret it. I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I joke. And it's probably not even a joke. I probably shed some tears when I left that role, just because it was just so. It was so special. It was so near and dear. We had great students, but I feel like that was just a part of the journey because who else to lead these students on a journey versus somebody who had did the program? And this is not a knock because I worked with some great people when I was with that program, but I was the only TRIO alum. So it was like, I don't want to say I legitimized that program, but I feel like I did because I actually went through it and seeing how it can benefit you and made it work. So I like to take those things, but no, I didn't see it, but I don't regret it. I loved every second of it. I loved every second of it. I just wish the school paid more.
Yeah. You currently serve as an advisor for the University of Illinois in Chicago. What can you tell us about this role?
So my role has changed like twice. I've been a cohort advisor, which means I work with our first and second year students until we get to the major advising. Starting this summer, I would just be a full first year advisor, but I work with business students. We have 8 different majors, and so these students can be one of those 8 majors. And it's been a journey, right? Where like I tell people, the next phase of my career was to go back to a big school and just work and navigate it and work it. And I've been working it, and I've enjoyed it. Like I tell people, I love working at UIC. There's a lot of great people, a lot of good fun and stuff to get into. As we talked earlier, fortunate enough, there is a TRIO program on campus, and so I do know those people over there in TRIO. They got to see me, and they got to see me in my element, and I think it was a surprise. They're like, man, like, it makes sense. They said we didn't know we was gonna see you, but it makes sense. Like I said, because I got an award last month. And so they were there, and they was just like, yeah, man. They was like, man, we were happy to see, your name. So I think it's just good to, be at a school. And like I said, and I joke and tell people this, like, working in higher education in Chicago, for me, UIC was the place I wanted to work, right? When you think of big school, I'm like, I want to work there. And it took me a while to get in. Like, they didn't let me in at first. But when it was time to come over, because I joke and tell people, like, when I finally came over, I had 2 offers to come to UIC, and So that let me know that like it was my time to come here. So there was two different paths I could have took, but I ultimately chose the College of Business, and I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I work with a great team. Been able to just lock into some of my core values, and like this year, I've been advising a student org, and man, it's been great. Like they rock. The business service leaders, they get a shameless plug, but they're so efficient. They're so just go getters, and it's just it has brought a new energy out of me because sometimes advising can be kind of traditional and this, but it just brings a different energy, and I've been enjoying it because through them I meet their friends, and it's just like more connections. Like, oh, this is our advisor, and this is what he can do. And others are like, well, can we utilize you? Can you do this? Or so it's been a great year. So I don't regret it, but that's my role. It's been ever developing, and we'll see what happens next with the business advisor role. But that's what I'm doing, and it's been a fun ride.
Fantastic. So James, we've been talking so far about all the influences that Trio has made, how it's helped you. Has Trio in some way prepared you for the current path you're in?
I think so, and I feel like that's a loaded question, but I think how I look at and approach advising for sure, because my foundation is in Trio, but I think also in the work that I do. I mentioned I am highly involved with Illinois Trio and EOA, so Educational Opportunity Association, and that's directly aligned to just being a Trio alum and like, hey, how can I give back to this space, or how can I grow in this space? And I feel like I've grown a lot in the professional. So I definitely think so, because you can look at career paths as actual work, but I think so because I remember everything from when I was a Trio professional, and I try to use some of those same things and take some of those same approaches because I'm probably the most untraditional advisor there is. And that's just because, just what I've learned and the experiences I've had. And I try to take all of that into account when I go to meet with a student.
What do you enjoy most about your role? I know you shared already about how it's changed and it's changing and the current things that you're doing, but what do you enjoy most about advising?
Advising, and I was just sharing this with some colleagues. I think for me, advising isn't going anywhere. It's going to always be around. So I like connecting with other advisors just to see what I can learn, like what ways. So there's like a huge advising community, and I think that's what I like. So I like to benchmark and see what can I learn, who can I connect with. And then, in one realm, I just attended our regional NACADA conference, and just the amount of people like, man, I met you last year. Or this, just being able to connect and share out and brainstorm ideas. And there is a huge, community. Like saying, I think having a right team, right? Where UIC is a big school. So we have hundreds of advisors for the different areas. But just finding out your people and working it. And I think that's like one of my favorite parts. Yes, we can say the students. Definitely come across some awesome students, right? Where like, my business and service leader students, one of my old advisees is actually studying abroad in London right now. So that's pretty cool, but just being able to be a part of some of those conversations and journeys, like, I can't even, I don't regret it. Like, say, seeing those parts. Some people say commencement, but no, it's funny. I just shared this with when I said like, oh, this is, so April 18th made 4 years for me at UIC. So this will be the first class I've seen graduate from start to end. Wow. But none of my students are technically graduated because my caseload is only first years and second year. So it's like, you get what I'm saying? It's like kind of funny. So I hear you. Some people say commencement, and which commencement is cool, right? We're like, I'm excited for our student workers. So we got some student workers who are graduating, and I think 2 out of the 3 are business students. So I'm happy for them, like I said, because we built a rapport and relationship. So it's like, no, I'm excited for them. And that's probably it. Like, seeing them sometimes, like how excited they get, about things, and being able to support them as they cross the finish line.
Absolutely. Because of the role Trio has played in your educational journey and career path, how has that influenced you personally and professionally?
Oh, I think the sky is the limit. And so I definitely think, making me think bigger and that I can do more. I mentioned just having contact with these Trio achievers or EOA achievers, whatever we're calling them, but they're Trio alums who are doing great work. It lets me know that, I can do whatever I want to do and that I have a network and village supporting me, right? Because we can meet one time and it's like, man, we locked in, right? Where, I got a colleague who I've never met, but we connected in like 2020 during the COVID era with the podcasting, and we've been locked in since, right? Where there's stuff he's like, James, I think this would be good for you. You should do it, or this and another. And he pushed me to challenge myself as a professional to present at Nakata because I'm like, I don't know, and he like, I think you should do it. And I'm like, cool. So I did it, and they let me present 2 workshops, at the same conference.
That's awesome, man.
And then like this year, I was one of the conference chairs, for the conference. And so it's like things like that were like just, the support. But I think any room I go into, I take with me that like I'm Trio, whether people want to see it or not. And so, and just try to let that be known. So like I tell students, let's say like, well, I'm first gen. I'd be like, I'm first gen too. Like I've been there. Like let's work through this together. And I just try to be that transparent, that supportive, but also not one of those people, right? Because I think since I do work in academic advising, I do think there's a level of students think we were the perfect students. And some people let students think that, and I don't. Like, I'm transparent. I'm like, hey, I was on academic probation. And they're like, no, you weren't. Like, yes, I was. I said, but I still graduated. So you can too. I'm not going to write you off because you're on academic notice, probation. We call it notice in our institution. Right. I said, I'm not going to write you off. I said, but what I've seen happen is you avoid the help because you're in this situation. And I don't want you to avoid the help because I've been in your shoes. And I can tell you can come from it, but you got to be willing to make it happen. So I do think Trio has played a role because it gives you more of the relational piece that sometimes you don't get in advising. Where I feel like in Trio, all the students were relational, right? Where, they had substance, and I try to bring that substance when I do the advising piece. And it could be a slam dunk, or sometimes it could be rough. And look, and as somebody said, we just had a retirement party yesterday because we had a few people retire on staff from our college. I have the gift of gab, so I know it's not me. So. So I could talk with the best of them. I could talk with anybody, but sometimes it is hard breaking down the walls of some of the students. With my traditional advising role.
So as you know, James, advocacy for Trio programs is extremely important right now. You've probably heard the headlines or read the headlines. There are attempts to justify changing the scope of certain programs or outright eliminating Trio. How can folks get involved in defending Trio or speaking up for Trio programs?
I love this question. I would say find your local Trio chapter, right? So most states either have a local state chapter or a regional chapter that is doing work to address this very issue. So last year I was fortunate enough to be the legislation and education co-chair for EOA, which is the regional Midwest Trio organization. We did like an 8-week outreach advocacy plan last summer because of some of this stuff. So I would say figure out what they're doing and see how you can support. If you want to do stuff on your own, like if you're an alum, I would say write your local Congress people and let them know that you support this program and what it's meant for you, because what matters is what the voters take. And if you want to take it a step forward, go visit them in their district, because they all have district office. They'll have time when they're there. go visit them and let them know, like, hey, you support these programs. But I do think, we all need to, I don't want to say do more, because I know some of us are doing a lot, but we all need to share our stories as TRIO alum and TRIO workers, and we need to make sure that that's being told. And I don't agree to the status quo or the notion of we need to change the scope. I think it's very disheartening a program that has been known to breed success is being attacked like this, but also I get it, because as they say, TRIO is too woke. And it's not too woke, it's just, it works, but that's a whole nother conversation. And, some people don't want those type of success stories out here. And unfortunately, America's education system, like, it works. I'm a product of it, but it's super expensive. And when you have a program like TRIO that challenges the status quo, that's a problem for some. They're like, well, you wouldn't have a degree if TRIO wasn't here. That's not okay to have that mindset, and that's the mindset that they're taking. Like, well, I could buy my education. Everybody can't buy the education. Like, some of us need TRIO to help us get through it. So, but I would say that, take it to your elected officials, and if they don't listen to you, tell a neighbor, tell a friend, and make it work. But I would say find your local TRIO chapter, whether it's the state or the region, and see what they have going on to help. So, I got one colleague from Indiana TRIO, and they had a whole advocacy thing for TRIO Day in February. Which was cool, but it's like, hey, we're gonna have all these students together. Let's just have everybody write letters to the Congress people and make videos and tag them on social media. Look, I'm here for it, but see how you can support their efforts, because there are efforts going on. But like I said, we got to figure out who our who our allies are, and this is not one of those battles for people to be silent, right? I feel like there's a right and a wrong, and I don't think you want to be on the wrong side of this fight.
Absolutely. James, your TRIO story resonates with a lot of folks that are likely listening to this podcast. Why is it important for TRIO alumni to get involved?
We are the success stories. We are, the outcomes. We are the outputs. And so sometimes they need to see it, right? And even as students, they don't know what greatness TRIO can bring for them, right? Where it could be like, oh, it's going to be food in the TRIO office. That's why I go. Or, hey, they got a couch and I go sleep on the couch. They need to see that, hey, this person did the program, they were successful. So I think that's why you need alums, right? Where we are the products, we figured it out, they helped us, and we can be that role model or shining light for the students that are coming through it. So I think that's why it's important to pull in, as many alum as possible. And, I kick myself in the foot because, I feel like, dang, knowing what I know now, I wish I would have kept tabs more on people I did TRIO with as a student, because just think of how powerful. There's a few people I remember, but just think if I could remember typically programs get 200 people. If I could remember all 200 students that was in the TRIO program, that would be powerful to be like, hey y'all, let's go do this, or let's go make our own Springfield Day to go advocate for TRIO. And Springfield is our state capital. And whatnot. But I think that's why it's important to have alums.
Absolutely. Where do you see yourself what do you see yourself doing in 5 to 10 years?
Hopefully done with this doctorate.
Yes. Let's put that into the ether of reality.
Yes. So hopefully done with the doctorate. Hopefully I want to be a father, so hopefully a father at some point. Because I'm not getting any younger, I'm getting older. and I think, joking, maybe not joking, as a few people have told me, it might be my time to step into, more leadership with Illinois TRIO, and maybe being president in the near future. So awesome. I think those are some solid, 5 to 10 year, and career wise, not an advisor. Hopefully, a promotion or a directorship of something to help me progress forward because, I do have other career aspirations, dean, VP, that I want to make happen before I retire. So I know me being an advisor isn't going to be the end goal, for especially not 10 more years.
All right, James, we're turning the corner here. We're almost done with this podcast session. What advice do you have for trio professionals?
What advice for trio professionals? I think my one advice would be take care of yourself. I work with a lot of trio professionals, and take care of yourself because I know the work can be demanding, and we lead with our hearts, and you got to take care of yourself because sometimes, depend on the institution, they may not see all the work that you do or understand what trio is, but I'll say take care of yourself. I think that's the best piece of advice I could give. I know it, I see it, I support y'all, and I thank you all for your students because I know it's not easy, and I can say this on this platform, and I won't get canceled. I said this to a colleague years ago. I said anybody can be an advisor, you just got to train them. I said, but it takes a special person to be a trio advisor, and I fully stand on it because it's layers to it. It's not just you got the training. You got to have the right heart. You got to have the right mindset, and it takes special people to do that work.
It definitely does. I agree. What about it? What advice do you have for trio students?
Ooh, for my trio students, I would say be okay with being uncomfortable. When you're comfortable, you're not growing. And so when you're uncomfortable, that shows signs that you're growing. And so whether that's, running for that position in that club that you're a part of, or I mentioned studying abroad on this podcast, be okay with being uncomfortable. And trust me, it's going to do wonders for you in your career.
That's wonderful advice. Take heed, trio students. What is something that you're currently reading, watching, or listening to?
That is a good one. So right now I am watching Invincible. My brother has gotten on me about doing it, and I didn't realize I was 3 seasons behind. So I'm on the 4th season. Yeah, I'm on the 4th season, so I'm almost there. It's just been a hectic past couple weeks. But what am I listening to? I am the Emerging Leaders Training for EOA currently. So we have our cohort listening to Start With Why by Simon Sinek. So it's pretty much talking about when you do stuff, knowing what your why is and always grounding yourself in your why. And if it doesn't meet your why, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Using only one word, describe yourself.
I'm going to say mentor.
Mentor. I like that. Very fitting.
Yeah.
James, thank you so much for being on this podcast. If you believe it or not, we've been on here for about an hour and a half, maybe more. Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for not only being on here, for sharing your journey in trio and providing us with great insight into advocacy. Thank you for being on this podcast.
Yeah, no, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and this was really fun. No, for sure. So I'm glad to be a part of your journey and your platform, and just to join the amazing group that you've had already. Because I've seen some familiar names that I've crossed paths with in the trio world. So I'm glad to join that group of people.
We're glad you're in great company. James, we have a tradition on the Let's Talk Trio podcast where we have the guest do a sign-off. Would you like to do the honors?
Yep. All right.
Where's yours?
All right, so my name is James Alford, and I am a graduate of Northern Illinois University, Trio SSS alum, and I am a current advisor at the University of Illinois, Chicago. One of my quotes I would like to leave you all with is everything that you need is already inside of you, so you don't have to look any further than yourself. And I am a living example of, trio works. And so I hope that you all see that as well.
Are you a participant, alum, or staff of a trio program? Do you want your program highlighted? You or your program could be featured in an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Trio. Get a hold of us by going to our Facebook page or Instagram and send us a direct message. Search for Let's Talk Trio. We want to get your story to the public.
You just heard from our guest, James Alford. Thank you, James, for sharing your trio journey on this podcast. And thank you, Trio Nation, for making this one of our best seasons yet. While on our break, we will continue recording episodes over the summer. If you've sent a message or sent us an email, we will be in touch soon. Otherwise, feel free to email us at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. If you would like to nominate a staff, advocate, participant, or alumni to be on the Let's Talk Trio podcast over the summer. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Villalpando, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jeff Naputi, Angelica Valdez, Rosario Riley, Felicia Rivera, Eric Lamaster, Jeff Calden, Rick Martinez, Don Blue Sky Hill, and Jaded Electronics. A huge thanks to our corporate sponsors for Season 7, TrioJoblist.com, Nosotros Education Center, Longsdale Publishing, Student Access, and The Trio Store, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio graduation stoles. Thank you all so much for your support this season, and thank you for supporting the podcast. You too can sponsor the Let's Talk Trio podcast in one of three ways. Become a monthly patron on Patreon. Our base level starts at $1 a month. Become a corporate sponsor by placing an ad on the podcast. Contact us for details. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast business PayPal account. Our business handle is at Let's Talk Trio. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank our honorary members of the Let's Talk Trio podcast, Roderick Chambers, Tony Ho, Scott Kendall, and Susan Cramp. The Let's Talk Trio podcast is the outstanding and magnificent John Russell, being our audio engineer, music producer and composer, and post-production editor. The outstanding Amelia Castañeda, our script supervisor, marketing manager, social media manager, and producer. And myself, your humble executive producer and host, Juan Rivas. Be sure to follow the Let's Talk Trio podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We will be posting over the summer, so look out for a couple of our social media posts. This episode was recorded Thursday, May 7th, 2026. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next season of Let's Talk Trio, coming fall 2026.